everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Team Daddy Weekly Recap. I am your host, Shapiro the Hero, aka Daddy Dreidels. Week 14 has come to a close, and so too has our regular season. 7 teams are in the playoffs, 2 teams are out but safe from punishment, and 2 other teams will fight it out for a spot in the toilet bowl against Cheese. As always, we'll go around the league looking at scores and standings, and we'll preview the upcoming playoff and consolation matchups. But first, this word from our sponsor. This week's sponsor is Tide All-in-One. For tainted clothes and other stains, Tide All-in-One gives you a reset with that clean, fresh start to your wardrobe. For even the toughest messes, it's gotta be Tide. As always, we'll start things off with our matchup of the week. This week's matchup of the week featured Zach taking on Swans. And in a must-win game, Zach did just that, defeating Swans 132.35 to 119.9. Jalen Hurts led the way for Zach with 40.55 points, and he also got 21.2 points from Keenan Allen. Unfortunately, Zach's score was not high enough to get him into that final playoff spot, and he will miss the postseason after finishing 4th last year. On the other sideline, Swans was led by Donovan Peoples-Jones and Josh Allen, both of whom scored over 24 points. But even though he took a loss in fantasy this week, Swans gets a pass as he and Jenna welcomed Rocco Anthony Swansboro into the world on Friday morning. A big congratulations to our newest daddy. Having already clinched a playoff berth, Swans will face off against Brett in the first round, while Zach lands in purgatory, out of the playoffs but safe from the toilet bowl. So if Zach missed the playoffs because he didn't score high enough, who's in? The answer is Armenti, who snuck in after defeating Brett 166.1 to 137.7. Led this week by captain DJ Chark with 38.1 points, Armenti completes the comeback, going from 10th place to 7th in just 2 weeks. He outscored Zach on the season by exactly 8 points and will face Josh in the first round of the playoffs. On the other sideline, Brett was led by Derrick Henry with 23.5 points, and he also won $10 for having the highest scoring kicker in Week 14, thanks to Captain Michael Badgley and his 16.5 points. Brett has already locked up the 3rd seed and will take on Swans in round 1 of the postseason. Looking now at our only team with a win-in scenario, Jed started off Week 14 in that coveted final playoff position. Unfortunately for him, he will miss the postseason after losing to me this week, 190.5 to 95.53. Not gonna lie, when Jed announced Derek Carr as his captain this week, I was a little worried. But Captain Carr only scored 5.93 points this week, and Jed's leading scorer ended up being Jerry Jeudy with 33.3 points. Of course, my captain, Mark Andrews, also scored ridiculously low, but I was led by quarterback Kirk Cousins with 39.25 points. And it's a good thing I held on to Cousins after trading for Kyler Murray, who tore his ACL on Monday night and is done for the year. Thankfully, my win helped me secure a first-round bye, and I will face the winner of George and PJ in the semifinals. Jed will join Zach in purgatory, where he will miss the playoffs but be safe from the toilet bowl. Looking at George and PJ now, they actually gave us a preview of their first-round matchup this week, and it was PJ securing the win over George 180.1 to 113. With both teams having already locked up playoff berths, this result determined the seeding going into Week 1 of the postseason. PJ was led by Patrick Mahomes with 36.3 points, and he also got 33.3 from captain Tony Pollard. George was led by Jamar Chase with 33.5 points, and he also got 23.3 points from quarterback Ryan Tannehill. For George, seeing production out of Tannehill is a good sign, as Lamar Jackson may be out for an extended period of time. The 2 teams again will face off next week in the first round of the playoffs. Another tandem previewing their matchup next week is Kyle and Big John. With both teams needing a win to reach their desired bracket, Big John into the playoffs and Kyle to avoid the auto bid to the crapper, Kyle turned in his most dominant performance of the season, smoking Big John 219.75 to 125.25. Kyle not only had the highest scoring team of the week, but also the highest scoring player in Jared Goff with 46.4 points. Kyle also got 44.2 points from Evan Ingram and 41.4 from Jerick McKinnon. Big John was led by captain Devontae Smith with 32.1 points, and he also got 26.95 from Joe Burrow. However, this loss not only knocked Big John out of playoff contention, but knocks him all the way down into the consolation bracket, where he and Kyle will square off again next week to avoid playing in the toilet bowl versus Cheese. Speaking of Cheese, the regular season has mercifully come to an end for Cheesy Baby. He finished the year with his third consecutive loss, this time losing to Josh, 176.15 to 129.6. Josh was led by Justin Jefferson with 43.3 points, and he also got 37.5 points from Miles Sanders. The win jumps Josh over Brett into second place and sets him up with a first-round matchup against Armenti. Cheese was led this week by Adam Thielen with 19.5 points, as he finishes in the basement of the league and will play the loser of Big John and Kyle in the Toilet Bowl. Here's how next week is going to look. 8 teams will be playing in games that matter, while the other 4 teams can still set lineups, but their outcomes will make no difference. In the playoff bracket, I have the all-important first-round bye, and I will face the winner of George and PJ in the semifinals. On the other side of the playoff bracket, Josh will face Armenti, while Brett will take on Swans. Those 2 winners will meet next week in the semifinals. In the consolation bracket, Big John and Kyle will face off, with the loser playing Cheese in the Toilet Bowl next week. Zach and Jed are both in the Upside Down, where they are not in the playoffs, but will not have to worry about the Toilet Bowl either. As the regular season comes to an end, and the postseason is upon us, I would like to congratulate everyone for making it through another season. I know the playoffs and consolation bracket are still ahead of us, and some of us have been more successful than others, but we all made it this far. Remember that in the postseason, the captain position is eliminated, and all scores are final except for scoring changes made by the league. Also, don't forget that even if you are not playing in a meaningful game, you can still win money every week for having the highest scoring team, player, and kicker. Thank you as always for watching. This has been your Team Daddy Weekly Recap. I am Daddy Dreidels, and I will see you next time. L'chaim, motherfuckers!